I have a question for you. Do you have inner battle, inner struggle that you can't seem to get rid of? More than that, more than you can get rid of, there's another issue with this battle, that this specific one, nobody knows. You don't share this battle with your friends, family, whoever. This specific battle that I'm talking about, you don't share. It's yours. It's yours and you deal with it. The problem is that you can't deal with it. It's a struggle, a battle that you just can't get rid of. So my question to you is, do you have this type of battle? So my question to you is, do you have this type of battle? The answer, of course, is yes. Don't nod your heads any other direction. The answer is yes. Everyone has this battle. Now, I will exclude. There must be 1 or 2 or 3 people who might say, no, I let everything out. Okay, good for you. So you are 1 out of 3 million. So you let it out. But you still have that battle that you cannot seem to get rid of. Now, I'm not talking about a yetzer hara that bothers you. And I'm not talking about your desires and your lusts. I'm talking about an inner battle, spiritual, physical, emotional, it does not matter. But this inner battle that bothers you on a daily basis that you cannot get rid of. That's question number 1, that you all answered yes. Question number 2 is the battle that you're not sharing. That's also yes by most people. So if you answered yes to everything that I just asked you, and you can easily, quickly, with no hesitation, raise your hand and say, I have this battle, then stay. This class is not a class to be missed. The reality is that everyone has some type of battle, big or small, physical, spiritual, or emotional. And in many of the battles you win. I'm not saying now that it's a battle that you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. It can be a battle for 10 years. And then you overcome it. And then the next one will come. So we're talking about right now the present. Don't start saying, 40 years ago I had battle with alcohol. Okay, so you finished that battle. Well, not really. Once an alcoholic, once a druggie, you're always an alcoholic, you're always a druggie. That doesn't change. You might not be using it. You clean for 40 years. But in the system, it can be triggered in a second. I'm not talking about things that happened to you 40 years ago. I'm talking right now. Today. This week. The last month. Last year. The battle that right now is stuck with me. And it could be the last 20 years. Don't try to pinpoint right now the battle. Right now, let me present the topic. Let me tell you what we're going to talk about. And then when we're going to dive into it, I will start explaining every little detail that you need to know to realize that this inner battle that you are stuck with, this is something new that you are not familiar with. Nobody taught you that there's this inner battle, that it's not your yetzer hara, your evil inclination, not your desires, not your habits. It's not all that. It's a certain battle that you cannot seem to overcome, big or small. So what I'm going to talk about today is the most personal problem you have. Don't worry, you don't have to tell me what's that problem right now or at all. But I'm going to address now your most private problem right now. So you have to be ready that this class is not going to necessarily enrich your Torah learning or background. But this is 100% Torah. And what I'm going to talk right now, if you are curious, is if you're following our series of Gate of Incarnation and Tomer Dvorah and Sharei Kedusha, all these series that we're learning, this is like a freestyle class from learning these books. Because when I teach you these books, we learn the book Netto. Only the book. Here you're getting a cocktail. What he thinks. This is coming from the books cooked together in the same pot. So we're going to be addressing today your most private, your most personal issue. But then we're going to try to solve that problem. So this is not a class you want to miss, and this is not a class you want to stop in the middle. Wait till the end. I do not know how long this class will be. Before we start, I have a personal request to the online viewers. Please subscribe to the channel right now, like the video, share the video, comment on the video, only because, not because if you want to do it because you want to do it, but I'm asking you to do it because lately my channel is under too many investigations of YouTube. I mean, my videos being removed and so forth. I have a lot of penalties. But lately, because a lot of people, as I'm asking, sharing, liking, are participating in the channel is kind of being back to more life. They removed one of my penalties, so now my links are clickable, and many more other things. So I know it helps. So out there, click the like, click the share. You're doing a mitzvah anyways, because if you're sharing it and a person learns, then you're doing an amazing mitzvah. But I'm telling you already, it really helps the channel, and we all benefit from that. You don't want the channel down. With that said, let's dive in. So our topic today, we will call it my inner battle. And before I even start, I'm already telling you what we're going to talk about is personal things, private things. My disclaimer is don't be offended by what I say. I know some people get offended because I hit the nerve and they turn the video off. It's not worth it for you. So don't get offended by how I talk, okay? I'm not here to offend you, or I'm not here to feel superior to you. I'm here to educate and share what I have to say. So please don't be insulted if I say something, and as an example, and happens to be that your personal battle is my example, and I know you'll be offended. So don't be offended. And if you are, I apologize. We will talk about two topics today. The major topic, of course, is the inner battle. But the two subtopics that we're going to concentrate is A, the battle itself, and B, which is not less important, is why specifically this battle you hide and not the other ones. That's a very big thing. Why are you able to open your heart about your marriage, or to open your heart about your disappointment in your kids or whatever to this person, but when it comes to that private battle, that you know, me? So we're going to have to address that. Now, when I look at this type of battles, we have to look at it in some type of graph of intensity. So to make it simple, let's make a graph from 1 to 10 in the intensity of that battle. 10 is the most intense, and I will now give the extreme example of this type of battle. That's already drugs, severe drugs. That this battle already, and don't jump and say, yeah, but the body's addicted. We're not going to analyze right now what is causing the addiction. I'm talking about that the battle is in full force, that it's life-threatening. That any given moment, when you fail, you die. I'm not talking about the lifestyle right now, which is the worst of the worst. So for me, in the graph, the worst battle, I would say drug abuse, but heavy drug abuse, not something minor. Not that I'm minoring anything, but I'm not talking somebody has a habit and they smoke marijuana. That's part of the battle, but it's not in number 10. I will put that number 7 maybe. I'm talking about right now, hard drugs, cocaine, heroin, crack, crystal. I'm talking about the person that it's any moment the person can die. let's go to the extreme opposite. Number 1 in the graph, I would say something as small as that you have a sweet tooth and you cannot stop munching on cookies and chocolates all day long. It's not life-threatening. It's not that bad. You're not harming anyone. You're not harming yourself to an extent. I mean, it's unhealthy. But it's like a very minor thing, one might say. But you can't get rid of it. So you might find all the excuses, my metabolism, my this, low sugar count. It doesn't matter. The fact that you need something in your mouth sweet every 5 minutes and you don't have control over it, that's a battle. That's it. Nothing to be ashamed of. Anything that you do, by the way. This class is not to shame you. It's to understand the battle. Don't be ashamed of your battles. That's the biggest problem in this whole problem. So the two things we're going to address, the war itself and the fact that you're hiding it. We explained that how I see it, that we have some graph of intensity. 10 is the worst, and I'm talking about something that is life-threatening, and I will give more examples because I know people will say, oh, I think that having addiction to A, B, and C is just as bad. Well, first of all, find me the ones that are life-threatening, that every time you fail the battle, you can die. You're not going to die from a chocolate. And you're not going to die from chas v'shalom lo aleinu, cheating on your husband or wife. But you can die from overdose. That's why that's number 10. Number 1, it's basic things. And I just said chocolate. I'll give you one out of the blue that many might relate. Is some people, they do lottery all day long. All day long. The numbers, I'll win, when I win, when I'm going to do when I win, all day long. They can't stop. They go through the booth next to the lottery. Okay, I'll just do one. It's not gambling right now in casinos. Now, this is something that one might say, what's the big deal? It's not a lot of money. But it's a battle that's in your brain all day long. The numbers are driving you crazy and you're living in some dream that when I'm going to win, oh, I'm going to buy this, when I'm going to win. So, you got the point. Now, between 1 to 10, there's all the rest. You don't know where your battle is right now on my graph. Can be 9, can be 6, can be 4. You're going to eventually have to see the intensity according to the damage, that's how much the work has to be done. And take to consideration that I'm talking right now about one battle. You can have 3 at the same time, that one, the intensity is 8, one is 5, and one is 2. And you have a few battles. Now is not the time to figure out the intensity. It's, at this point, not so important. First, we have to figure out that there's a problem. If we don't know that there's a problem, then how are you going to fix it? If you feel that your battle is your Yetzer Hara, your evil inclination, so you constantly in fighting mode. To win the battle, you have to be in winning mode. It's a total different battle. So let's focus a little bit on the actual battle itself. I will now divide 2 channels where the problems start from. One of them is the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination that is hired by the master of the universe to keep you on your toes. And the Yetzer Hara will come and bother you all day long. Each person has a different Yetzer Hara. That is department number 1. If you haven't in your long life yet got to the point where you can recognize when it's the Yetzer Hara, then you A, got to start working towards it, because it's never too late, but B, you're missing the whole point here. If you don't know when to recognize this is a Yetzer Hara. Now will come a question. So if it's not the Yetzer Hara, what is it? If it's not the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara that's bothering me from morning to night, what is it? I thought that all my challenges, and all my trouble and all my battles is the Yetzer Hara. So that's right to a certain extent. Why is it right to a certain extent? Because the Yetzer Hara has his job. And he does his job. I'll give you one example that you understand what I'm talking about. The Yetzer Hara is not always there to make you sin. If you're going to sin anyways, the Yetzer Hara doesn't need to do anything. He knows you're going to sin. One of the major things that the Yetzer Hara is focusing on is to bring you to points that you lose your cool. That's what he wants. Either to lose your temper, either to lose your patience, either to lose your cool, your state of mind, and then, of course, to make you lose your happiness, your emotional stability. That's what he wants. He wants you to be sad. The Yetzer Hara, if you want to cut to the chase, as it says, the Yetzer Hara wants you to be sad and depressed. That's it. And he will find how to get you depressed. So it's not always the Yetzer Hara going to come and make you sin. Many, many times he says, go and sin, or don't sin, I don't care. I want you to be depressed. I want you to be sad. Now, of course, in many of the cases, you'll blame your sadness on many different things, but the Yetzer Hara. But I'm telling you straight out that the Yetzer Hara's job is to make you sad and depressed. Of course, and to make you sin and much more. Why did I say that in the inner battle, the Yetzer Hara has something in it? Because when the Yetzer Hara sees a weakness, then he goes and, pokes it. So the Yetzer Hara is just helping. But the battle, the weakness, has nothing to do with the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is we'll call it now an evil entity that after he's doing his job, what God told him to do, then he wants to work overtime, and he sees you're down on the ground, then he'll kick you on the ground. Now you think that your battle is the Yetzer Hara. It's not. The Yetzer Hara just came in, gave you a kick in the guts, and went out. And you're still stuck with the battle. So when we're looking at the battle, we have factor number one, your dear friend, your Yetzer Hara. Which I call the Yetzer Hara at many times my personal trainer. Yetzer Hara sounds a little bit negative. I call him my personal trainer. Because if I don't have a personal trainer while I'm working out, you need to be a very, very unique individual to train by yourself. And I've been in sports and many things most of my life to tell you, you cannot train without a trainer. It doesn't matter if it's a group, a team, a basketball, baseball, whatever, or if it's a one individual, whether it's a gymnast, a boxer. No such thing that you can grow in that department without a trainer. And by the way, almost in anything you cannot grow without a trainer. It's just not going to call the trainer. It might call, I don't know what they call it today. I forgot the name. They have a name for that. But it can be your rabbi. That's also a trainer, or your financial advisor. It's somebody you turn to that has more experience. A mentor, exactly. Why would you turn to the mentor? Because he has 50 years of experience. Not right now. Please hold the comments to the end. So why would you go to this mentor? Because I don't have the right kelim. I don't have the tools. More than that, I might have the tools, but how can I look at myself when I'm in myself? I need somebody out there looking at me and telling me where I'm doing wrong. So specifically when it comes to something like sports, of course you need a trainer. And when it comes to anything that requires a lot of discipline, you need somebody supervising you. Very rare people have a very high level of discipline that they don't need somebody down their throat. I'm not saying that there are not. There are. The majority of people, they need somebody down their throat to supervise, to entertain, to mentor. It doesn't matter. So, in many of the cases, I don't call the Yetzer Hara. I call him my personal trainer. He wakes me up. He keeps me alert. If not, I'll start falling asleep. So he's doing me really a favor, because he's pushing me to my limits. If not, I'll be very lazy. That's the human nature. If I get comfortable, I become lazy. So the Yetzer Hara in many of the cases is my friend. I'm just saying that as a side note. Now, we said that the first factor in my battles is my Yetzer Hara. Now comes another factor, and that's called my Te'ava, my desire, my lusts. Where from these desires are coming from, we're not talking today. This is not so easy things that you can pull out of your sleeve where you get your lust from. Because you can blame it on million and one things, but it has a root. And again, this is a big question. We'll address not today, down the line, but I'm already telling you that the desires that I have, my te'avot, are not equal to yours. And at this point, I'm telling you, there's an origin to that. It's not that you desire X and you desire Y, and it's by chance, or where you grew up, or the background you came from, or that can be blamed too. Listen, in the spectrum, there's a lot of factors here. Like I told you, in my inner battles, the Yetzer Hara is a partner. He's not a main partner, he's an active partner, but a little one. Then will come my desires. But my inner battle, my desires are part of the inner battle. Because I can have desires that are completely under my control after 20, 30 years of self-refinement. And in my inner battle, my desires and lust has no say there. It's two different things. In many of the cases, like any living organism, the strong attaches to the weak and overpowers the weak. That's usually the case. If your inner battle is weak, then the Yetzer Hara will be drawn to that to put pressure there. The desires will be connected to there. But I'm already telling you that in this topic of inner battle, it's not always your desires or your te'avot. I will tell you, you should know that by learning with me Char Gilgulim. Many of your desires, they come from a previous incarnation. Many of them is a tikkun, it's a rectification. It's under the umbrella, the title, te'ava, desire, lust. But one can be coming with me from a previous life. One can be coming with me as a tikkun, as a part of the rectification and refinement process of the soul. And some can be from where I live. That the te'ava is developed where I live. And what's the proof to that? That if you take a human being and put them on a deserted island, when this deserted island has no immorality or anything that has to do with that, then he will never develop the thoughts. He will, to a certain extent. He will develop thoughts of desire to his wife, because that's natural. That's what God wants you, to desire your wife. But he wouldn't have all the craziness that society fed him for 30, 40 years through movies and commercials and novels, love novels and all that junk. Take now a person or a group of people and raise them on a deserted island where there's no drugs and alcohol. You think they'll have a desire to drugs and alcohol? Never, because it's not even natural. So where do you see, or where can you make the test where it's coming from? Yetzer Hara, desires. Just put the situation, what would be the result if? So let me give you one example out of many. And I will use all the examples that I can on me. Because I think I'm a very good candidate for this topic. Because throughout my short life, I battled the most extreme battles in my graph. And a lot of them, many, and for a very long time. So I feel that I not only matured, but I graduated the school of identifying your battles. It's not that I'm winning my battles. Some yes, some no. But at least I'm in the level of identifying, is this my Yetzer Hara? Is this my lust? Is my desire? That's coming from my nefesh already. Is this a tikkun coming from a previous life? What is this? Or is this something that I'm stuck on because of my life and where I grew up, this world? So if I was battling drugs in my early 20s, that's only coming from my surrounding, not from my neshama, not from my Yetzer Hara. Of course, the Yetzer Hara will jump in for the weakness and jump on the party. But it's not necessarily, and in this specific case, it's not a tikkun. Now, of course, in general, everything is a tikkun. It's a result of where the person was raised, how he was grown and so forth. Now, one might look specifically in my past and say, nothing with you makes sense. Because you grew up to a normal family, not only normal, I mean, my father, Baruch Hashem, exceeded anything that he's a general in the army, businessman, wealthy. My mom is educated. I mean, I grew up in the most normal family you can think of, in the most calm, peaceful, upscale neighborhood in Israel, Ra'anana. No crime, no... My prototype should be a class A plus citizen and either a doctor, engineer, CPA, lawyer. If I look at my class of 74 in Ra'anana, they're all academic, high-tech, because it's not like some ghetto that I grew up in, and all I saw is druggies and gunshots and murder, and I grew up in a completely different place. So, doesn't even make sense that I will be drawn to certain type of lifestyles. When did everything change? I mean, of course, I was always a little bit of a troublemaker, but not in the level how I was in my 20s. Once I left Israel, that's it. Then new temptations came into the picture. Drugs, parties, things that I didn't have in Israel to that extent. So you see, it's the area where you are. It's the Yetzer Hara, of course, will kick you in your tuches. And the desires that you have will draw you to that specific thing. Because the way it works with te'avot, and I told you we'll address it, but not now, because really everything is a te'ava. I can have a te'ava for a cookie. I know when I say the word lust, you think of sex or horrible other things. Te'ava can be to anything. You can have te'ava for money. You can have te'ava for beautiful clothes. In Hebrew, lust, te'ava, they're not 100% parallel, the words. But many of my te'avot, like I told you, it's not coming necessarily from something deep within. Sometimes it's very external. So, when I'm looking at this inner battle that I'm now introduced to, that I never heard of, because I thought I just have a Yetzer Hara and I have a lot of desires and lusts that are out of control, and that I have a lot of baggage from my past. Well, let me add another one to your list. Now we're talking about a whole different thing. Since you're occupied with trying to figure out the Yetzer Hara and your lust and everything else, you don't realize that there's another factor here, this inner battle, like a tick, 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 tick in your brain that drives you nuts, and everything that above that I told you, they're just supporting. Now we have a brand new power of inner struggle that I need to be acquainted with. It's a whole different battle, because it's a whole different power. Right now, I know some of you might have the question is, where is it coming from? Is it another one of God's things? So of course, the answer in general, of course, it's one of God's paths. But eventually we'll have to figure out why this specific inner battle is different. Ultimately, it's all God's decisions and God's challenges and tests, and it's nothing behind Hashem. But I'm just throwing all these big questions, mainly so you can have, I'm throwing all these big topics and questions, so you'll start a question. Because you never ask these questions, right? Because you didn't know you have to ask these questions. Now, let me explain a little bit about this battle and why it's so different from your Yetzer Hara or from your desire. This little battle that you have, and I will have to mainly give you examples on myself, but first, take a moment, and if you're watching the video, maybe pause, take a moment to recognize or choose your selected battle of the day. Okay? You don't have to say that out loud, but you have to relate with what I'm talking to. So you have to take now a moment and say, okay, what is my little battle, or maybe big, that nobody knows? Start with that question. Nobody knows. Run through your memory right now. Is there a battle in your life that nobody knows? You're saying no. Nobody knows, or yes? Is the answer yes, no? Okay, good. So you're the number one. So when you finally find this battle that nobody knows, and it can be minor or big, okay, now you recognize what we're talking about. On purpose, I'm not telling you choose randomly a battle. Choose the one that nobody knows. And for the ones who everybody knows, sit quietly for another 5 minutes, then we'll continue to...
I have one that everyone knows.
So, once you recognized that problem, this battle, okay, now let's move on. If you can't recognize it because you're confused whether it's the Yetzer Hara or your Te'ava, so let me give you one big example that is, many will relate to that, and that's the desire in normal cases to the other gender. Let me be more blunt, the desire to sex. Okay? There's no other words to say that. Now, one might say, yeah, I have the desire, but I don't think it's bad. I desire my wife. I don't look at other women, but I have this desire. Good, so this is a good desire. This is not the battle we're talking here right now. When do we need to start addressing it? When the desire goes to the wrong direction. Because I can desire to learn Torah. Is that bad? It's a te'ava, but I'm learning Torah. So me desiring my wife, there's nothing wrong with that. Lehefech. Oy vavoy if I don't desire my wife. What am I going to do with her? I start looking at other women. So oy vavoy if you don't desire your wife. I don't want to say desire your husband. Then people start thinking I'm desiring my husband that I don't have. So I'm talking in personal to me. Don't look at me like, I don't have a wife. Okay, you have a husband. Same thing. So going back to the desire or lust for marital relations, if it's directed to my wife, it's a mitzvah. Good. So Hashem planted in me a desire that when it's just pushed to the right way, it's a mitzvah. Is this a Yetzer Hara? The answer, of course, is no. So don't tell me when I'm looking at other women, oh, it's my Yetzer Hara. No, my friend. It's the desire that God gave you to use it to your wife. The fact that you don't use it to your wife, then the Yetzer Hara is going to come and go like this. That's it. Don't blame the Yetzer Hara. Blame yourself that you're not pushing your desire to something positive. End of story. So when I'm talking about this battle, Yetzer Hara, I'm not even going to talk about today. Because either you know your Yetzer Hara, you recognize the Yetzer Hara, and you know how to deal with it, or not. There's no middle. You either know your Yetzer Hara or not. And we're not going to talk about the Yetzer Hara, but the Yetzer Hara is part of the struggle. Just imagine the Yetzer Hara is like this little dwarf, very annoying, that, comes and kicks you in the ankle. That's the Yetzer Hara. It just comes to bothers you. That's what we say Factor number one in the battle. But let's focus again on my lusts. If my lust, desire, and I'm going to now start using only the word te'ava. If my te'ava can be used for something positive, that's not my inner battle and it's not my Yetzer Hara. It's the te'ava, the lust that God gave me, that my test here is to know how to maneuver and where to take it. Like a sails boat, wherever you're going to push the sails, that's where the boat is going to go. Same thing here. So if I have a desire to a woman that is not my wife, my definition here, that's not my Yetzer Hara here. That's not my inner battle. It's a battle. It's an inner battle. It's my Yetzer Hara. All of the above are just additions. It's my desire that God gave me in order to do good with. End of story. I'm failing because it's part of my challenge. Where am I pushing the energy? That's it. Push the energy somewhere positive. You did a mitzvah. And that's what God gave you, the desire. Chas v'shalom, if I wouldn't have a desire, how would I procreate? You know that Chachamim at the time of the Beit HaMikdash, our sages, had very strong powers. They decided one time to eliminate the Yetzer Hara for marital relations. And voila, the next day, nobody has the Yetzer Hara to have marital relations. Forbidden, permitted. After a few days, they noticed that the chickens are not giving any eggs. And they at first did not understand. Why is the chicken not giving eggs? Because in order for the chicken to give eggs, the rooster has to fertilize her. And how would he do that if he doesn't have a desire for her? And then they figured out very quickly, oh, what a mistake we made. If nobody will have desire now to be with their spouse, that's the last generation. God created the desire for the other gender for me to procreate. So take this example, and that's your explanation. How do you recognize that your little battle, it's not your te'ava? Now, if your desire cannot be used for something positive, now we have a problem. If it can be used for something positive, I will categorize it in right now as part of your tikkun, baggage from a previous life, and what God wants you to fix. Not Yetzer Hara in the battles. Total different department. Recognize them very fast in your life and work on them. That's why we're learning Shari Kedusha. That's why we're learning Tomer Dvorah. Recognize what God wants from you to refine and do it fast. Don't think it's a Yetzer Hara or all sorts of inventions. So I gave you one clear example how you can take a desire that can be used for the worst things, but it wasn't created for that. It was created for me to desire my wife and to procreate. End of story. Here's your example where you know that the te'ava is not Yetzer Hara. What's the sign that you can use it for something positive? Now find in your system a te'ava that you cannot use for something positive. Can you think of something in your system that you desire and you cannot use it for anything positive? So that will be homework number one. I know you're thirsty for an example, but I'll tease you a little bit and let it cook in your mind a little bit. Because I'll tell you why it's hard to find, because most of the te'avot can be used for something good. The reason why I'm not giving you an example, because most of your desires can be used for something positive and a mitzvah. Now figure it out. Figure it out. And the reason why the journey, so to say, or the switch, better word, the switch, when it's taken from positive to negative, it's like a fine line. That's your perfect example. It can be used for something very positive, while can be used for something negative, And the line between the positive and negative is a very fine line. Because a man can have great desire to his wife, but still desire other women. Now, that's already a tikkun being dressed with a lot of Yetzer Hara on it and an inner battle. That the Yetzer Hara is always going to tag team, the Yetzer Hara always going to jump when he sees weakness. And your inner battles that we're talking about, that can start getting mixed now with everything else. And I'm already telling you on the topic of inner battles, it's always going to be mixed with everything. It's not that it's like one invented battle that you never thought of, and it's always going to be mixed with Yetzer Hara, with Te'avot, with everything. But today we're trying to make some type of an organization, if that's how you would even say it. In Hebrew you say Seder. How do you say organization? Doesn't sound what I'm trying to say. We're trying to make a little bit of sense of what's going on here. We are now defined Yetzer Hara as one entity. Te'avot told different things. And the battles that I'm going in, that's another thing that we're talking about. And extremely important to highlight, in case, I'm saying that in case for the ones who are a little bit confused, everything that I just spoke about in the last 40 minutes, that's not the challenges God puts you through. We have a whole different thing here. I'm not talking about challenges. And another thing that I need to add, this is not we'll call it now, what would be the most appropriate word, because I was about to say punishments. We'll call it now, it's not the reactions of your foolish actions. Many of the things that you go through in your life, it's a reaction of something that you did. It's not a test, not a challenge, not from previous life. You did a certain sin in this life. God somehow decide to have the reaction instant, which you rather have it. Because you right away, oh my God, I did something wrong. So many of the challenges in your life are not all the above. I'll give you one example out of many. Financial problems. Everybody has a time in their life that they're dealing with financial problems. You have your ups, you have your downs. Some people, all their life is financial problems. So that's already maybe a tikkun. Maybe coming from a previous life. Maybe the financial problems are only 2-3 years. Not necessarily a tikkun. You might perceive it as a tikkun, something, a baggage from a previous life. That might be because 6 years prior to that, in some business deal that you did, you not really stole, but you didn't tell something that you saved X amount of money, which really is gezel. 5-6 years later down the line, you're going into a few years of financial struggles. That's 100% the reaction of your action. It's not a tikkun, it's not a challenge, it's not an inner struggle, it's another headache for you to deal with. Why am I saying that? Because you might get confused with the example that I just gave you. And saying, oh, I thought up until now it's my inner struggle. No, my friend, it's your sin. You're praying for your sin. It happens to be that it's a challenge and it's a struggle, but it's not what I'm talking about. And if we have to separate it or partition it, Yetzer Hara, partition number 1. Partition number 2, my desires and my lusts. That will be sub-partitions to by my environment or my previous life or my tikkun, my rectification and job in this world. Partition number 3 will be the reactions of my actions, sins that I do, that you're going to get the slap to the face on the spot. Many of the sins you're going to have to deal with in the afterlife, which you don't want to. Many of the sins, you're going to get a reaction to your face in this world right away. So partition number 3, it's your own doing. And partition number 4 is the inner battle that I'm talking about that has nothing to do with not your Yetzer Hara, not your desires, not your tests, not your challenges, nothing. It's a certain inner battle that is dressed with everything that I just told you. The core of it is the inner battle. That's why I told you right now, it doesn't matter what it is. It's the fact that you have the ping pong in your head. On top of that, the Yetzer Hara comes and puts his sign. And then will come your desires. And everything will start becoming mixed together, including the sins that you're praying in this world. So now you're confused, you don't know where it's coming from. That's the major problem. With most people, when they're trying to deal with their challenges, they don't know where it's coming from. If you would know, this is my Yetzer Hara. Okay, so I know how to deal with my Yetzer Hara. This is coming from the sin that I did. Shut up and deal with it. You did it. Now, not always you're going to know that that's what you did. But in many of the cases, you're a little bit sensitive. You understand. You know, you did something wrong. You knew you're doing that it's wrong while you were doing it. You knew there's going to be a consequence. And sure enough, the consequence came. And you're like, that's it. Listen, we're all the same. What you're going through, I'm going through too. I've been through everything. So when we're looking at this battle, I told you, let's now partition it again. Yetzer Hara, 1. Desires, 2. My challenges that God wants me to go through. Hashem wants me to go through any challenge. He can put me through any challenge. The horrible divorce, financial issues, loss of a loved one, government issues. The government is coming after me. IRS, whatever. That can be a selected challenge by the Master of the Universe because you look bored. That's another partition. Your reactions, the reactions to your actions, another partition. You need to know how to separate them. And the one above all is your inner battle that is the core of the problem. Now we understood the war. Let's now go to the next question. Why specifically this battle I hide? Why I'm not hiding the fact that I have financial problems, marital problems, but the challenge that I have with my kid, nobody knows. Why? Why this you hiding? Why aren't you not hiding other things? And I just gave an example that many might relate with, that everything they will share, they will tell their friends. And it's not that you're sharing it on Facebook or with a megaphone. I'm saying you have your friend that you're saying, my husband, he's driving me crazy. You talk. You question if it's Lashon Hara or not, but you need to. That's the biggest Lashon Hara question that I get. If I pour my heart out to my best friend about the situation with my spouse, is that Lashon Hara? Well, depends what you say if you want an answer about if it's Lashon Hara. Depends what you say. But many of your challenges or problems, concerns, you share it. This bundle you share only with your parents. This bundle you share with your spouse or with your best friend. But why 1 or 2 or 3 or 7? But why one specific battle you don't share? What's the problem with that one? And by the way, that's, in Hebrew we have a saying, maybe they have it in English. In Hebrew we have a saying on this specifically topic is, Po kavur hakelev. This is where the dog is buried. Now, I don't think in English it sounds good.
It's Yiddish.
It's Yiddish? Even better. How do you say it in Yiddish?
Das ist der Hymn, but very,
Okay, so...
very, very sharp.
So I think the thing is that I think it's more coming from a biblical error, and Yiddish just probably use it. I don't know where it's originated, but doesn't matter. Po kavur hakelev. This is where the problem is. If you are a plumber and you're going to look, we had an issue here with a leak. You bring a plumber. We brought 7 plumbers. Nobody figured it out. That's a different issue. But one normal plumber comes. Okay, let me first figure out where's the blockage. Figure out where the blockage. Release it. Same thing with your own body. Why do you think you have most of your aches and pains? There's a blockage in blood flow. Find the blockage, release it, and the blood flow will go back to normal circulation, and that's it. So this is the same thing. So I'm wondering, Why this specific thing? And it might be the most minor thing. You share with your loved ones big things. This one you don't share. So that's what I'm saying. Po kavur hakelev. When you need to figure out everything that I'm just telling you, why don't you share it? First question is, why don't you share it? To refine the question is, why this one I don't share? Now, wouldn't you think that if I have a problem and you seek for help with everything else, why don't you seek for help with this one? I mean, human nature, and everybody can agree, you have an issue, you seek for guidance, for help. If it's a financial issue, the guidance you seek or the help you seek can only be for a few individuals that have the ability to help you. If you have financial problems, you don't go to the beggar on the street and tell him, can you help me? So you can only turn to certain people for help with financial issues. If you have marital problems, you're not going to turn to your younger sibling that is 17. They have no experience. They know what to tell you about a spouse. You need to turn to somebody with more experience. So when you have an issue, normal behavior is to seek for help. And I know many of the things, it's very embarrassing to say, but I can tell you, and don't worry if you are one of them. Don't worry, because I'm a vault. All day long people tell me their secrets. You have nothing to worry about. I'm Fort Knox. You can't get nothing out of me. Ask the FBI. They weren't able to take anything out of me. So you won't be able to take anything out of me. Somebody tells me something nobody knows. All day long people tell me their secrets. Obviously, they feel some type of closeness, or major what they feel is that I'm not judgmental, but people tell me their private things all day long. So obviously, you have certain problems that you can tell your friends and loved ones or whatever, and then there's a certain problem that you might take it to the next level and go to a secret rabbi or somebody other side of the world, and God, I don't have to see you. I don't have to see you every day. Sometimes it's hard to go to your rabbi when he sees you every day. Yeah, you have a rabbi across seas that doesn't even know who you are because you teach online. It's easy to ask him a question. But why am I telling you that? Because most of the times, when a person has a situation, they seek for help. They will find the person that I can only talk with you. If I would have $1 for every time I heard, you are the only rabbi I can talk to, I will do my Torah classes on my private yacht parked in front of my private island. Not that actually a private island might be a good solution. I'll be my own government. Want to come for a private island? So, how did we get to the island? If I had $1 for every time a person tell me, you're the only one that I can talk to. I understand. I actually understand. Because I publicly expose my problems and my issues and my what I dealt with, so people say, oh, well, he will relate when I'm going to come and tell him that I'm addicted to drugs or addicted to that, or I did this, or I robbed banks, or... You're not going to be able to faze me. Anything that you'll come to me, I did worse. So it's not that you're going to impress me with something new. But obviously, the fact here is that when somebody is drowning in a certain issue, they want help. The majority will seek help. But when it comes to this inner battle, why don't you seek help with that? Why that one you don't want to say and seek for help? What are you hiding? But are you afraid that somebody's going to be disappointed? Why are you hiding that? Are you afraid that by you not hiding that specific thing, your loved ones or the people around you will be disappointed in you and you cannot fathom the thought to disappoint them? That's why you're not saying that? I'm not attacking you. I'm giving you a material to think of. Don't look at me like as if I'm attacking you. I'm planting questions in your mind. And if you're not afraid of disappointment, what? You're afraid that if they'll find out what you're doing, you'll get fired. That's why you're not saying. You're afraid that if chas v'shalom you're going to say something, the business deal is not going to come through. I don't need to give you examples. You know how many people smoke weed? For them, that's their battle. And if their job will know about it, they'll be fired. So they don't tell it to anyone. But that's not why you're not telling it to anyone. If you're not telling it to anyone in your job, and you don't want anybody to know there, yeah, you're hiding it from there. But if you're not telling the smoking weed habit to anyone, then there's a problem here. And I'm just throwing examples because I just told you, what are you afraid to be fired? What if I'll give you one example out of many. You know how many men I know that have a serious problem with gambling and their wife doesn't know about it? Why don't you tell your wife? Are you afraid that she's going to divorce you? Are you afraid that she's going to, what? So are you not telling her your battle because you're afraid of the consequences? Or that's an inner battle that you cannot share it with your wife? And we'll have to address that. Why aren't you sharing? Ask yourself. And I can give you many more examples. Why aren't you sharing? You're embarrassed, afraid of, not embarrassed, I'm saying afraid of disappointment. You don't want to let somebody down. You think that if you share, you will be judged. That's one of the major problems. I will be judged because I have this weakness. How is about, this is a popular one. You know how many parents I get? My child is out of control. We're in a certain community. The child is we're embarrassed. Why don't you tell that? You're afraid that the other children won't be able to find a shidduch. That's why you're keeping the problem privately. So the examples are many. I will tell you what's the biggest problem why you don't share is the shame. You don't share this specific problem because of shame, not anything else. Not because you're afraid you're going to be fired. That's a cover story. Not that you're afraid that you're going to be disappointing somebody or that you're going to be judged the wrong way. By the way, most of your actions are rooted of what will people think. A minority, their actions are not controlled by what will people think. And I'm telling you, most people, probably including most of you, that your actions are motivated by what will people think. How you dress, how you talk, what am I going to wear today? Because you're constantly thinking, I'm the center of the world, everybody is going to look at me. What will everybody think? Personalities that don't care what people think, I bless them. No, that's my personality. I don't care. I care what God thinks. End of story. I don't dress to impress. I don't care about these things. I mean, don't get it the wrong way. You are not a factor in my existence. See, that's a healthy way, because the other way is I'm the center and everybody's looking at me. The complete opposite of that is that I'm not the center. So why would I care what you think of me? I'm just another person. Right? If I'm just another person in the crowd, why would it matter what you think of me? So I can tell you that the majority of this little inner battle that you have that you don't share is shame. That's it. You are ashamed to step up and say, I'm addicted to drugs. I'm addicted to gambling. I'm addicted to porn. I cheat on my wife. Who can stand and say that? How many people stand and say that? Unless you're in AA or SA or PA or whatever A. And then somehow you get guts, and don't discredit that. Don't discredit the people who stand up and say, my name is Moshe, I'm an alcoholic. To stand up and say that, they're much better than you. You don't even say that. You don't even say, I have a problem with this and that. And I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming you, not attacking you. I'm not cornering you. You want to be ashamed? Be ashamed. But I'll tell you what the problem is with this being ashamed. You're not ashamed of Hashem. You're not embarrassed of God. You're embarrassed of another person to tell them your darkest issue. And from God, you're not embarrassed. And one day when you die and stand in front of everybody naked, don't you think everybody will know anyways? Don't you think that everybody, including all the people you don't want, will know what you did, what you thought, what you spoke, what was your intention? You're not going to get away from it. That's part of the process of the soul going into Gan Eden. I don't care how much mitzvot you do, and how long your beard is, and how much Torah you learn. Eventually, your thoughts, your intentions, everything will be exposed out on the table to everybody. That you're not embarrassed. Now, if you don't want all these records shown in public in the spiritual world, then do tshuva. Don't do the sin. If you cannot take the shame, don't do it. Think real good if you can handle shame. Most people cannot handle shame. When do you know that you reached a very high level of tshuva? That you don't get ashamed. You know why you don't get ashamed? Because you already confessed it. Because you already confessed it. You did vidui. You screamed to Hashem a second after the sin. Chatati. You confessed already. To the master of the universe. You don't have to run in the street and start confessing your sins. Not at this point. But I'm clarifying it that shame is the wall here, and you have to climb over this wall, because I'm telling you that at some point in your existence, guarantee, no question about it, you will be faced with a situation that all your sins, including your thoughts, intentions, emotions, everything that you ever did, thought, or participated in, everybody, and when I'm saying everybody, all living souls will know that. That's how it works. You're not going to avoid it. One day you will be standing in some chamber in the spiritual world as a naked soul. All your credits, all your credentials, everything that you ever did is written there, and all the souls will read it and look at you. And trust me, that's the real shame. You're not going to know where to bury yourself from the shame. So the answer to that is just don't do these things. And if you already did or still failing, do tshuva. Tshuva erases it. That's it. And just be aware, sorry that I'm speaking so blunt and direct, basic tshuva will erase the surface, but it will still be there. Like when you engrave on any material, you can kind of rub it off, but it's still engraved. You'll find it. Same thing with a pen, you can rub it. That's what's called tshuva tata'ah, low-level tshuva. In order for it to be completely erased, high-level tshuva, tshuva me'ava. Till you do that, the remaining, what's called reshimu, the impression of the sin is there. So you might not be judged, but you will still feel the shame, because it will still be there, like a tattoo. When I did my tattoo, it was dark and black. I looked recently at some picture. Now it's faded, after the attempts of removing it. So this is an example. The sin is still there. Yeah, you did tshuva. You did tshuva. You're not going to get punished. But the stain is still there on the nefesh, which will be embarrassing to my soul when I come up to the heavens, because the tattoo is on the nefesh. It will be faded because they did tshuva, but it's still there, and there still will be the shame. So when we're looking at why you're not telling, I'm concluding it that all the above, you don't want to be fired, you don't want people to think badly about you, and you know what? To some of the excuses, I will agree with you. I will agree with you that if you have a bad habit, and chas v'shalom, and that's your inner battle, and if chas v'shalom, they'll find out about it in your place of work and you're going to lose your livelihood, I will say, I agree with you when you're not telling them. If it's not putting anybody in danger, if you are not cheating the system because you're not functioning like you're supposed to, as long as you're giving what you're supposed to, don't say. And that's not my advice. That's the advice of the Torah. The Torah says clearly, in certain situations, you're not allowed to lie. At any situation. But in certain situations, you're allowed not to tell the whole truth. That's it. So I'm just not telling the whole truth about my private life. It's none of your business. So in certain situations, I will tell you, okay, the excuse I'll take. I understand many times I deal with certain topic. Somehow, I don't know why it's majority men. I told you with the gambling. And when the men tell me, I can't tell my wife, it seems like in their mind, like I'll be able to overcome my addiction, and better that she didn't know. And if after I overcome it, I'll tell her, by the way, I had it and I overcame it. But that's an excuse, my friend. That's an excuse. That's not because you are... So be true to yourself when it comes to these things. Now, let's summarize what we have here. We are now acquainted with a new problem in my life, which I'm not happy about. Why are you telling me that I have more problems now? I have enough problems. You telling me now I have to deal with another problem that I don't even know how to deal with? I don't like your class. I'll give you a thumbs down. So before you give that thumbs down, first of all and most important that we need to understand is we have a time frame. We are now under a lot of pressure. We're not in the 80s or the 90s I know many will say, you've been saying that a long time, Mashiach is coming, but now more than ever. I never said when he's coming, I just said he's coming very, very soon. Very soon, in regards to 3,000 years, 4 years is very soon. Besides the fact that we gave already all the information how late Mashiach is, so no need to elaborate. We don't have much time to do what I need to do. I'm dealing now with a lot of situations and I'm pressured with time. That's one of the most important factors you need to take from that. But really, when we want to summarize what we talked about today, one might look at it as, now you're giving me another problem to deal with. Then, of course, the answer is no. Now I'm giving you a solution to all the problems that you had, plus the problem you didn't know that you have. But what one needs to understand is that I would say the mechanism of this life is that I constantly have to be triggered, to be challenged for my decision. That's it. That's if I need to summarize what the Torah says. The verse in the Torah says clearly, Hashem is testing you to see your reaction. Lema'an nasotecha. How are you going to react? That's the game, by the way. If you haven't figured out the game, then welcome to the game. That's the game. The game of Hashem is going to put two things in front of you, and He wants to see what you're going to choose. Sometimes they're identical. Sometimes the change between them is completely obvious. And constantly Hashem is going to challenge you. He wants to see your reaction. Hypothetically, if you have no past incarnation problems, you don't sin, and you don't have any of the problems of any human being, you will still live a life full of challenges. And from one challenge to the other, and sometimes 3 challenges at the same time. Now, if you don't sin, and let's say hypothetically you're a brand new soul, you don't have baggage, then you can only know these are challenges from God to see how I react. Because I don't sin, so it's not a reaction of my sin. I don't have a past life, so it's not a tikkun. It's not things that I did in a past life. So it's just challenges that Hashem wants me to deal with. You, first of all, need to get to that point that your challenges are just the challenges that Hashem wants you to deal with. That's it. And then you just put it on autopilot, and your life goes normal. You deal with your challenges, and you live your life normal. Devoted to God, you are inspired, you're happy, you're relaxed, you're content, you're healthy, you're successful in what you want to do. Some success or more, sometimes you fail. You have a kind of normal life. Which is that what most people want. And when the challenge comes to your direction, you greet it with a smile, because that's what Hashem tells you. Accept the challenge with a good attitude, and let's see what's the challenge of the day. Today we'll be challenged with patience, tomorrow we'll be challenged with anger, and the next day we'll be challenged with maybe with what decision of what I'm going to say right now. But the core of your life is making the right choice when you are faced with a challenge. And that happens to you 400 times a day. Maybe 300, don't catch me on the number. That's my existence. When I look at the mirror and say, Alon, what are you doing here? I'm here right now to face the challenges that God puts in front of me, and that's what causes God great happiness, and by that I also transform the darkness of the world into light. That's it. Everything around it is to support this. So now I need to separate the challenges. What is coming from a previous life? So we're learning. Deal with it. Finish with it. Don't drag it. You put one aside. Your Yetzer Hara, he's there. Don't feed him. The reactions to your actions, don't sin. Minimize your sins. You know why? What's the system behind high police tickets when you speed or when you do dangerous things? If I'm not going to get through common sense, I'll get through the wallet. Why do you think most people don't drive fast? They don't want to pay the fine. I don't have money. So in the beginning, if you remember, it was only fine. Then they introduced another problem. You get points. Because if I don't get points, the hell with the fine. I have a lot of money. Let me drive how I want. So now they're coming from a different place. We'll give you points. Too many points, you get your license revoked. You have a lot of points, your insurance is going to be expensive. They're making a point. They want to discipline you through your pocket. So Hashem does the same thing. You sin, Hashem is going to discipline you through a slap to your face. Here is a problem that most people don't know when it's their action. If you know it's your action, fix it and the problem will be solved. And that's, I'm not even going to giving you examples. I can tell you my entire life is like that. Problem, backtrack, psychoanalyze, re-engineer what's going on here. That's the cause. You put the cure here. Problem solved. The problem is, especially in our generation, that society has educated us to deal with symptoms and not with the problems. Right? So you know how to deal with symptoms. You don't know how to deal with the problem. We have to deal with the actual problem. Sometimes you'll have a rash here on the hand. What would be the solution? The skin doctor, he will give you a cream to put on the rash. And voila! 2 days passed, no rash. Did he cure the problem? No. The toxins now are not coming out from here because you blocked the pores with your cream. Now the toxins will come out from here. Or from here. And so it's not going to come out in a rash. It's going to come in diarrhea or headache or whatever. Deal with the problem. Why are you dealing with the symptom? That's the same thing with my life. Most people are running after their tail, dealing with the problems that they create, and the rest just falls into the whirlpool, and then your life is chaotic. So we want to stop the chaos and at least reduce the speed of the carousel so you're not going to be that dizzy. Now, I know you're not liking to hear that we're going to have to deal now with a new problem. Why are you introducing now a new problem? Because, I'll tell you why. For however long we were learning Sha'ar Gilgulim, Gate of Incarnation, and Sha'arei Kedusha, Gates of Holiness, and Tomer Dvorah, and a few other books, then the purpose of that, because I feel that that's the most important tool that people need to get, is how to refine themselves. There are enough Torah out there to teach you about the parasha, and to teach you about many other things. But unfortunately, the Torah of refining yourself is not out there. So we're learning all these books. Happened to be that last week's Tomer Dvorah class, we finished chapter number 5. So in my mind, I was like, okay, for tomorrow's class, what should I do? Should I do a recap of the entire chapter? Or should we go to chapter number 6? So the conclusion, of course, you have to do a recap of chapter number 5. It was a very difficult chapter if you followed. Very difficult. So we have to recap it. And with that thought, I was like, at some point, I'm going to have to take these 3 specific books that we've been learning for so long diligently from the book, but to make a standalone class explaining these books freestyle. So you got this class. You would get it anyway, anyways in another way at some point. But what we learned now, by the way, that was the introduction. We didn't start. I mean, we're finishing the class now, don't worry. But what we went through now, that's the introduction of what we're going to learn. Now I'm just trying to get your attention. I probably lost 3, 4, 5% of the listeners by saying this is way beyond what I can handle right now, or I don't want to listen to more nonsense. But the majority, I got their attention. So this was the introduction. I welcome you to the introduction of the long series that we're going to have to start learning. I still don't know if they will put the series on YouTube or on Atzmut, because if I put it on YouTube, I will be restricted in how I talk. I want the series not to be restricted with how I talk. I'm not talking about conspiracies, talking about even the words that I use. It's going to have to be rated R, these classes. So it might be only on Atzmut. This will go on YouTube for you to understand, learn, and understand that we're starting to learn something. I'm not giving you too many answers today. I just now threw the grenade to your direction. Now your decision if you're throwing it back to me or Shem Yerachem. So first of all, most important to understand, you're not going out of this class now with a 3-step solution and you solved your problems. I just now gave you an x-ray. You came and told me I have a pain, I have an ache. Okay, let's do an x-ray. Let's see what's inside. So I gave you now the x-ray. You have a problem. And the problem is, you're not dealing with the Yetzer Hara. That's number 1. We covered that. You are not dealing with your desires. We're not talking about te'avot. The te'avah comes from the neshama, either what you need to fix from a previous life, or what is the nature of the neshama, and where it's originated, that causes you to behave in a certain way. And I'll give you one example out of many, and I don't want to go too far with it, because it's very heavy, and it's much more deeper than it sounds. But we learned in the Zohar 2 years ago that every neshama is rooted in one of the sfirot. If a neshama is rooted in the sphere of chesed, chesed has the motion of giving, and the desire to give, and the desire to fulfill needs of others, and to help, and to pleasure another person. A person with midah of chesed gets pleasure when they cater you. Sit down, eat. Please, you be a guest. They have pleasures from that. Now you would say, I want to have that. I want to be rooted in midat chesed. I want to have pleasure in helping people and giving, and this is all great. Take this to a negative side. You know what would be the side effect of such a midah in a person? That specific individual, as a man, will desire every woman he sees. Why? Because he has the inner core is to fulfill other people's needs, is to satisfy other people. Him, it went through so many descending chains through impurity that where does he want to give? The chesed comes out in wanting to give. Where is it coming from? From chesed. It's translated to desiring every woman that he sees with no filter. Doesn't care, married, not married, hurting, she's married, don't care. So you see, an amazing midah. That's what it's going to cause, by the way. Don't look at me like I'm inventing things. I'm reading out of books. Smarter people than us taught it. I'm not talking about Ruach HaKodesh right now. A person that is rooted in midat chesed will be much more pulled and triggered to have no control over his desire when it comes to sex. Because he's a man and he's a giver. He needs to give. In his limited brain, he doesn't understand that the midah of chesed is pushing so strong that he doesn't even think, it just comes out. The cure to such a person is to do so much charity that the desire to jump on another woman will be reduced because he's activating midat chesed to where it's supposed to go. And suddenly the desire goes down to women, so he thought he won the Yetzer Hara. You didn't win the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara wasn't even here. You know when the Yetzer Hara walked into the show? He's the woman with the red dress. He knows you are going to look because of your te'ava, because of your nature, because of you're rooted in Sfirat HaChesed. So the Yetzer Hara says, let me put a blonde wig and a nice tight dress, and he would look at me. That's when the Yetzer Hara walks into the picture. But before that, you were battling two things. Your nature. God already placed that in you because you are rooted in Midat HaChesed. You want to give. Unfortunately, you're not clean enough spiritually to understand that you don't give like that. You give like this. Now, when you direct the te'ava, like I told you 40 minutes ago, to something positive, that's not your battle. That's your stupidity. So direct the te'ava to something positive. A, you're going to do a mitzvah. B, the desire for the negative will be reduced because you are applying the midah. Now I can give you that in any example, in any sfira. But that will keep for our long series. So I'm giving you one example with chesed. The same thing will be with gvura, and the same thing will be with netzach and hod and everything. A quick example. I don't want to say anything not nice now because of the elections today. I had a thought. I'm going to refrain from saying that thought about what I had to say about the election day today. But let me give you the same example in a different cover. A person rooted in Midat HaNetzach, positive effect, the person will constantly be thriving to be good, thriving to be best, very motivated. So many good things in regards to Midat HaNetzach. Take it to the wrong direction, that person will be the most rude person to other people. Because the nature of the midah is to go above and to be above everybody, which is an amazing midah. It's unbelievable motivation. When it's done the right way, it's not a competition. When it's done the wrong way, I take that nature of the midah and I put myself above people in the wrong way. I humiliate them. I become bossy. What's the word in English? Possessive. And many other things. Now again, one might say, that's my weakness. No, my friend, it is not your weakness to be possessive over your wife or your girlfriend or something. You are rooted in Midat HaNetzach, and that's your nature. But you need to do it in a positive way to overpower the force that's causing your motivation. Such a force that you can become a good scholar from that. Because you have the motivation that I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I need to learn. No, I need to learn another book and another. But don't ride on other people. So you can analyze that with any sphera. So again, I'm dealing with a situation. First of all, we said Yetzer Hara, department number 1. This is not our class. I'm not going to teach you about the Yetzer Hara. He exists. He comes to you in a very tricky way. That's it. Maybe we'll give some more information as it comes. Next partition, like I told you, it's your te'avot. Deal with it in the right way, because I and you and we all have te'avot. I'm talking all the time right now about marital relations. What about food? What about food? We didn't even start talking about food as a te'avah. And many people don't even understand it's a te'avah. I need to eat. Okay. And many times the food is not te'avah. The food is that inner struggle. And we will analyze, because you said before, is it physical? Is it spiritual? Is it emotional? That's what we need to figure out. A person can have a weakness, this inner battle with treats. Don't tell anyone either. Embarrassed. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to look fat. Whatever. They hide the sweets. They don't eat it in front of everybody. In the pocket, there's always something to eat. My husband shouldn't see me. They'll give me a... Now the excuse is, I don't want my husband to see me. He'll tell me I'm too fat. I don't want to eat like this. That's the excuses. Right? It's not why you're really not telling it. And that's, are you killing anybody? I'm eating a Twinkie. You're not killing anybody. Where is this on the graph? 10? No. That's a 3. But it can be a 7 if it's ruining your life. We're going to go through the graph. Don't think that drugs is number 10 and gambling, bank robbery. No, it can be a 10 when it's something as small as chocolate. Why? Because it's controlling your life. And once it's controlling your life, even if it's a pastry that you are addicted to, and by the way, it can be a Fortnite game, it can be a Netflix series, it can be... we have a lot to talk about. Because if you're going to tell a person, your inner problem is that you're addicted to a Netflix series, what's the big deal? So I watch 7 Netflix series a day. Well, if it's already taking over your life, that's a problem. If you watch a chapter a week and you enjoy the series over time, because once a week or twice a week you need to clear your mind, okay, I'll give you that. Depending who you are. But for now, I'll give you that. But the problem, like any addiction, and I'm not calling this class in any type of way addictions, but it's all addictions. Just that in Judaism, we don't use so much the word addiction. But nevertheless, like any addiction, usually the person who's addicted does not know or is aware of the addiction. They think it's totally normal. Then next steps, of course, being the defensive. Ma pitom, what are you talking about? So it has that type of twist, the inner battle that you don't want to say. But I'm telling you now, to conclude, it's all excuses. It's any excuse that you find for why you're not telling it, I'm sorry to tell you, you found an excuse. And you're going to need to expose it and deal with it. So we're not going to talk about the Yetzer Hara. We're not going to talk about my te'avot. We're going to actually talk a lot about te'avot because they mix very well with this inner battle. So we'll talk about te'avot. Not much talking about the natural challenges that God throws into your life because He decides whatever He wants. And that will kind of answer your question from the beginning of the class, Tzipi. What if it's a battle that I struggled 10, 20 years ago, finished with it, and suddenly it's haunting me after 30 years? And that can be explained in many different ways. It can be even the Yetzer Hara showing you slides from a memory book. And suddenly he awakens the problem. But that's why I told you before, it all depends on your tshuva. If you did perfect tshuva on a certain department, it will never surface. You fixed it completely. Now, to that question, many of our designated challenges will be throughout our life, with breaks so you can catch your breath. But if a person, I know many people with that problem, but a specific person that has financial problems, we already came to the conclusion that nothing that he's going to do is going to solve it. That's the challenge, the natural challenge that God wants him to deal with. He has unbelievable nachar from his kids. I don't want to say I'm jealous, but he has unbelievable nachar from his kids. Oh, pure, amazing, good students, amazing kids. Unbelievable relationship with his wife. I mean, in general, you would say, everything is good. Can't make $1. He already knows, that's my challenge. I will be challenged with money for the rest of my life. It's not my sins. It's not a yetzer hara. It's not something from a previous life. I mean, of course, we can never be 100% sure. But we understood that he's also a learned guy, a God-fearing person. He understood, that's part of my tikkun. Why? I don't know. So for him, is financial issues. Another person can be marital issues. Doesn't matter what, they're going to have 7 wives. Never getting along. Or whatever it is. Issue with kids, issue with health. In order to summarize, because there's a lot what to say. I threw out the topic, the concept. The smart ones of you will internalize it and take it dearly to consideration. The other ones will pass to the next lecture, and will still battle all their struggles all day long. So since there's so much more to say, I will just conclude, at least for today, that the trick in this battle right now is to understand that it's all in your head. It's all in the head. I don't accept it's my body, it's the people around me, it's all in my head. And in one way, I feel grateful for God helping me in all my challenges, but also feel obligated to, God puts you through something is to share it, not to keep it to yourself. So Baruch Hashem, I can gladly say that almost any challenge you can think of that a person can be challenged with, I mastered. And not that I'm trying to sound like a potz or something. God decided to give me the worst challenges altogether. And when I'm talking about challenges, I'm talking about all these inner struggles right now. I'm not talking about, and the inner struggles are as extreme of extreme drug abuse. Extreme drug abuse. That's not quitting cigarettes. To quit cocaine, it's not the same type of quitting. And the addiction to cocaine, or to many other of the drugs I abuse, that's not a regular habit, addiction, or something you just let go. So I struggled in many different departments in a very severe way. I'm just throwing now the drugs because I marked it on my graph 10. But throughout my life, many of my life course, and a lot of it you don't even know. You might think you're following me for 10 years and you probably don't even know what 2% about my life. Which lately I'm starting to share a little bit more and more information, and don't worry, soon will come the bomb and you'll hear everything. But what I'm saying is that Baruch Hashem, I've been around the game of dealing with my issues. Because when I started becoming observant, and I'm going to give you a quick overview and then we're done. When I started becoming aware that I need to be observant, I didn't even start. Was, of course, the second that I woke up in the hospital after my near-death experience, I understood life now just changed. It took me 3 months to land, and another year to just get my act together. But I understood right now, party's over. The party was supposed to be over, with your switch going down. Somehow you got a chance, but the party is still over. That's it. Now give me all the excuses you want, but my body is addicted. Up until today, not myself or anyone understands. How did you stop the next day? It's not even the next day. From that day, my eyes opened up. Never have I touched any drugs. How do you explain that? Physically. I'm not talking about the year that I was half dead, just the rehabilitation of the body. How physically do you stop that in one shot? That goes to show you, besides that it's divine, it's all you had. So I don't accept excuses. My body, this, the situation, the environment. Now I'm giving you one challenge out of many. I mean, I had many situations that God took me literally to the edge, and miraculously somehow in most events it was changed letova, for the good. But through this course, and I will start sharing with you some of the challenges, I'm saying that not to show off. I'm saying that to tell you, trust me, I know what it is to deal with situations. And I'm not telling you that I'm now free and clean. I'm a very oiled machine. Is how to recognize where it's coming from and how to deal with the problem. So I allow myself, with the experience of my own life and the experience of learning, to share the 2 cents that I have on the matter. You want to accept? Good. You don't accept? You don't have to. But I'm telling you now that this an hour and a half class, I'm not talking about the entire series. That's based on at least 15 books that I have read many times. Happens to be that some of them we're learning from the text, which it's important, but it's not the same level of learning. When I can guarantee to you that in the last 10 classes of Sha'ar Gilgulim, I lost most of the students. Is that correct? You don't have to be embarrassed. It's hard. So to go through the books a few times and then to dish it up as a pudding, as a soup, whatever you want to call it, a chunt, whatever you want to call it, that's what we're going to do. So I can tell you already that the main core of success here is God. That's the element of success. There's no other element here that will give you the success. I'll give you one quick example out of many. You heard that story many times. But how I quit smoking. I was a very heavy smoker. To smoke 2-3 packs a day, red, Marlboro red, like a chimney. A month or 2 after my near-death experience, I moved to Chicago. And I'm not even observant. I know that I have to. I don't practice anything. Besides putting tefillin on and saying the morning prayers and a few minor things, that's it. So the very long story goes as I'll tell you the story in the short version. I moved into a new apartment. What does a Jew do? You go and buy mezuzot. I go to Chicago. I lived in Chicago. I go to the city where you can find. And I walk into the store and I tell them I need 13 mezuzot. And I need the most expensive, the most nicest ones. Okay. Why the most expensive? If I'm already doing a mitzvah and I have a lot of money, the best is going on my wall. I'm not buying some cheap imitation. You're giving me the most expensive, the most refined, the best you have. Okay. Out of respect for the store, going into a Jewish Judaica store, I put a yarmulke on my head. Out of respect. Okay. I go out of the store, I buy my mezuzot, I drive down towards my new home. I call the management office and I tell them, I don't want to move on Friday. Is that okay if I move on Sunday? Of course. Something in my mind told me, don't move into your new home on Shabbat. Wait till Sunday. Okay. I had to stop somewhere on the way to buy money orders to pay for the first month rent and the security, and I stopped in some neighborhood in Chicago that I guarantee to you I was the first Jew that ever, probably the first white person and Jew that was in that neighborhood. But I don't care. I don't see colors. I'm definitely not afraid of going into a neighborhood. That was on the way. I walk in. I'm standing in line in a Western Union Friday afternoon where everybody gets their paycheck and they come to cash their check. I'm standing in line with 300 people. Standing. And this guy in the back is screaming his head off, talking loud. And I turn around like with an attitude of, what's your problem? Why are you talking like that? The guy looks at me from the other side of the room. Shalom! Shalom. And the guy comes to me. He hugs me. He's like, 6'8", picks me up. He hugs me. I'm Jewish! I did a bar mitzvah! And he starts screaming. And I'm like, man, you gotta keep it down here. We're both gonna get ourselves killed. And in my mind, I'm like, how does he know I'm Jewish? I mean, I know the nose is pretty big, but I can easily be mistaken for anything else. I forgot the yarmulke on my head. So we engage in a conversation, and he tells me, do you smoke? I said, yeah, you want a cigarette? He's like, no. You want to quit smoking? And I'm not going to make the story long with explaining every little details, but the answer was yes, I want to quit smoking. It happens to be that a few months before this encounter, I thought I'm getting a heart attack. While I'm driving, I pulled over. So yeah, I want to quit smoking. He says, come to this hotel. He tells me. I tell him, what is it about? He tells me, have you heard of quitting smoking through hypnotism? And I said, I did. So he says, come tonight to this and this hotel, and you'll quit smoking. Now, bear in mind, I may be wearing a yarmulke. I don't know nothing about Judaism, and I don't practice anything, but I had a feeling that I shouldn't do a financial or money transaction on Shabbat. So I said, does it cost money? He says, yeah, give me $40. So I give him then $40. That night, I decided to walk to that hotel, not to drive. I walk in, nice room, 30, 40 people. We're getting like a 3-hour lecture about everything that happens to the body while you smoke, with slides, with everything. They gross us out. And then comes up on the stage the hypnotist. And he starts with his session, and then he wakes us up. He says, don't look at your clock, don't look at your watch. How long do you think you were out? Everybody in the crowd said 5-6 minutes, me, myself too. We were out for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I go out of that room, and since then, 22 years, I've never touched a cigarette. I walked out of this room, went to the hotel where I stayed because they didn't have a house. I'm sitting in the smoking zone. 20 plus years ago in America, there was smoking in restaurants. But the cigarette is in my hand, and I don't want to smoke it. I would wake up in the morning and right away push in my mouth 3 cigarettes. Nothing. I didn't tell it to anyone because I said nobody will believe. And I quit smoking just like that. Now, what caused me to quit smoking? My will? My strong desire to quit? My inner struggles in my brain, don't touch the cigarette? What caused me to stop? So I know you're all going to say the hypnotism, which you are right. Hypnotism is not some invented concept. Look in all the books of Kabbalah and Chassidut, and you'll find the concept of the subconscious and the concept of hypnotism. And that's what it is, yeah. The hypnotism is what caused the switch. But I told you before that there's one element that you cannot do without. God. You know why the hypnotism worked? Because I went into this with the energy of being surrounded with a mitzvah. I'm going to buy the most fanciest mezuzot. I don't want to move into my house on Shabbat. I don't want to walk to the hotel. I don't want to pay you now on Shabbat. The awareness. And you have to understand, I'm 27 years old Jew, that in Jewishness, I'm a baby. I don't know nothing. Not conservative or reform. I'm not nothing. You can say on some Reform Jew, they go to shul, they know something. My knowledge is zero in the Torah. But the little that I know, mezuzah, not to pay on Shabbat, that what was occupying my actions, that invited the intervention of God. That's it. I'll tell you the Kabbalistic term. The hitaruta diltata, my awakening, shaken the heavens. I brought on myself the hitaruta dil'ela, the awakening from above, that Hashem says, I will intervene in the process. You getting it as a present, but it's my intervention. Without me putting my hand there, me, God, not me, it wouldn't work. Saying in other words, when you're going into this process, you have to understand two things here. A, it's everything in your head. All the excuses you make is your head making these excuses. It doesn't matter right now if the Yetzer Hara made the excuse or whoever did the excuse. You making the excuses. The excuses are also your way of not dealing with the situation. I don't want to deal with the situation, this denial. So I make excuses. It's not that bad. Nobody needs to know. If nobody knows, it doesn't hurt anyone. And you know what? I'm not really hurting anybody. And you know, it's really good for me. I feel more focused and I feel more happy. And does that sound familiar? Because that's the excuses you're giving to yourself. I'm giving to myself the same excuses. What do you think, that I'm coming from a different planet? I went through everything that you went through on steroids. And I know you're going to come and tell me, oh, you didn't go through this, you didn't go through that. I'm not asking for your problems. I'm barely dealing with mine. You think I need yours? I know you're dealing with problems that are not in my level. But when it comes to major events, trust me, I've been to difficult situations in my life. I exposed severe drug abuse. I've been in jail for a year and a half. Then most of the time was in isolation. Not talking about 5 times I attempted murder. I was almost murdered. Now that's not necessarily an inner struggle, but it causes many inner struggles at the time. And don't forget much later. Don't forget that many of these inner struggles, you're not saying it because you admit, I'm ashamed. You might be the one who says, I admit. I don't share it because I'm ashamed. But you have to understand that that's you're 3 steps ahead. But you're still missing the elements that where is it coming from? And in many times it's coming from emotional issues. Abuse, whatever it is. Emotional issues in this world, emotional issues you came from a previous life. So it can come from emotional part, it can come from a spiritual part, it can come from many different places. We're not talking about this right now. I'm now throwing the net into the ocean. Later on we'll start pulling it back and see what fish we caught. But now you have to understand that you're introduced to a new type of battle. I think we made a little bit of an order that the Yetzer Hara, that's the Yetzer Hara. The challenges that God wants you to go through, that's challenges. Te'avot, that's your desires. A lot of the things that you go through, it's your own actions. If you don't know how to kind of organize what I just told you, then start learning how to do it. And we'll go through this in this series. Because I know to recognize when it's the Yetzer Hara clearly, and I know when I recognize my Te'ava. And I gave you the easiest way to pinpoint on your Te'ava. There's no value for this advice. If your desire can be used for something positive, it's only a Te'ava. End of story. Don't blame it on the Yetzer Hara. Don't blame it on you being abused 40 years ago and now it's coming out. It's strictly your Te'ava, your lust. Deal with it. How do you deal with it? Direct it to its right direction. The negative part will be reduced. Right away. That's it. But you have to recognize, it's a te'ava. I'm human. And you know what's the big difference? Because when you understand that you're sinning because of a te'ava, you understand, okay, it's a te'ava. If you understand that you're sinning because of a certain weakness, then you put yourself in a very low level. What, I can't deal with it? Te'ava, psychologically you can deal, okay, it's my te'ava. I have to deal with it. Another issue, you can put yourself down and reach to places of despair by saying, what, I can't deal with this little thing. That was the mantra in my mind. This I can't deal with. I dealt with this, I dealt with that. This I can't deal with. I got rid of heroin. I got rid of cigarettes. I got rid of everything. This I can't get rid of. So psychology, and that's, by the way, the Yetzer Hara playing with my mind. But you're able to quit this. This you can't stop. This you can't control. That's the Yetzer Hara. Pushing, pressure on your brain. That you're like, he's right. How can I not control it? It's a piece of chocolate. Or it's a game. Or it's a show. This cannot be controlled. Now again, most people who are addicted to Netflix, Facebook, TikTok, and all these things, it's not even right now in a definition of an addiction. You tell them you're addicted, what am I talking about? I'm just getting educated. But clearly it's an addiction. How many minutes a day do you hold your phone? If it's more than 30 minutes a day, you're addicted to your phone. Deal with it. Go to PA, Phones Anonymous. I also have a smartphone. I actually have 5 smartphones. I run a business, I run an organization, I have a lot of smartphones. And you'll find me on the phone probably about half an hour a day. So why are you 4 hours a day? Well, what are you, running the world? Are you a president? What do you need to be on the phone so long? You're running a business? I understand you need to answer WhatsApp and emails and stuff like that, which you can do on the computer. And I'm not saying if you're 5 hours on your phone and you work from the phone, you're not in this conversation. You work from your phone. I'm talking about when you are on TikTok for 5 hours. Or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or all of them together. And then you top it off. Let me finish seeing 3 chapters of my favorite 12-season series. And okay, 7 in the evening, let's start the day. You're a parent. Did you feed your kids? You're taking care of your kids. You're doing homework with them. Go watch your series at 11 o'clock at night. And you're telling me you're not addicted to your phone? Every location you are in the city? When you're a tour guide, I need to know every place where you go. I mean, that's an addiction. Now, the human mind will tell you, it's nonsense. That's not an addiction. If you sleep with your phone, you're addicted to it. If you wake up with your phone, you're addicted to it. I have an alarm clock. Do you have an alarm clock? I do. Most people wake up with their phone. Right? Now when you wake up with your phone, if it's just an alarm clock, thank you. But you squeeze in a quick look into your WhatsApp. Or a quick look into your feed on Facebook, or who liked your post. You didn't even say Modani. So you're addicted to your phone. Admit it. And that's one of the basic keys to everything that we're going to learn right now, is you have to admit your weakness to yourself. And if you do not admit your weakness to yourself, walk out of the room, close the video, go watch something else. Go watch your Netflix series. I'm not entertaining enough. So we're going to go into a very interesting journey. I guarantee to you it will be successful. I guarantee to you it will be valuable. And I have a lot more to say, but I think I'm going to cut it short here. Again, I will ask at least the ones online to share, like all that stuff, subscribe, all these good things. Share it because people need to be educated and know. So the most important thing right now is to internalize what we have discussed and to make a decision. Am I on board, or am I going to stay where I was and deal with my situation? I don't need another chapter to be opened in my life. I can tell you it's a very auspicious time now in the month of Adar to take on yourself very deep levels of tshuva. We had this experience of Purim Katan. Now you take advantage of the next month and a half of Purim, of Adar, that has a very significant power to assist with doing the right tshuva. And that's why right after Adar comes Nisan, that if you did it the right way, you're going into a month of freedom, redemption. Freedom from your problems, freedom from your addictions, and freedom from the things that bother you. So now is the perfect time to do it. You have a month and a half of Adar where tshuva is easier to make organization in your head. How am I doing that? I guarantee to you it sounds like you are now going to load yourself with more. I guarantee to you apply this, you're going to unload a lot of issues. You'll have much more time and free space in your brain to deal with the rest of the stuff. When you kind of, in Hebrew we call it to turn off fires. Half of the chaos in your life it just requires one little action and it doesn't bother you anymore. It doesn't throb in your head. That's the problem with this inner battle I'm talking to you. It's like a pulse in your brain driving you crazy all day long. You're waiting for the next time. It doesn't matter what it is right now. You need the next fix. You can't be relaxed. And the hiding, you can't take it anymore. You have to tell it to someone. Yesterday, I'm going to tell you something funny and we're done. I told you before, I'm Fort Knox. You tell me something, it goes through the ear, it never comes out. I'm a bunker. Sometimes it's not fun because you have good news, you're excited, you want to share it with somebody. Who am I going to share it? Nobody knows. So yesterday something happened, kind of good news. Only one person in this world knows. So I called her in the middle of the night. I have to tell someone. I have to share the good news with someone. You're the only person in the world that knows. So, when exciting things happen in your life, you run to share it. Just think, why this one you're not running to share? That should leave you a big matzah ball hanging there. Why am I not sharing it? Take all this information. This is priceless information. It's not only priceless information from our holy books, it's priceless information from my last 25 years of experience. En chacham kebal hanisayon. The wise person is the experienced person. You can be the best engineer in the world. If you never nailed something in the wall, you're nothing. Same thing with doctors, same thing with anything. In theory, it's not the same. You walk through this process for 20, 30 years, you have enough experience to share with the world, especially when you were successful. If you fail, what are you going to share with the world? Your failure. If you were able to overcome one step and another step and build all these systems to able to deal with it, then now it's time to be brought to the world. So B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to be educated in great knowledge of refining ourselves. This is applying to anyone, young, old, Jew, non-Jew. It doesn't matter. It's a human being right now. And it doesn't matter if you're 20 and you're saying, I didn't live my life, or if you're 80. One has nothing to do with the other. It's every human being that needs to deal with it. And I'm telling you, guarantee, I don't need to be tested or questioned. Every person in this world is dealing with struggles. Some are in my graph number 10, and some are number 1. And you are, if not the two to number 10, you're at least the number 1. At least with one thing. No such thing that one person has no struggle. I will exclude now that you don't tell it to anyone. That's the sign to pinpoint on the struggle itself. But the fact that you don't have a struggle, don't bring me any person in the world, unless you're bringing me Reb Zusha that will tell me everything is great, or Nachum Ish Gamzu, then that's not the people I want to talk to. I'm talking to you. We all have struggles. We all have issues. We all have problems. But I can tell you one thing. that you might not be aware of. We all have solutions. There's solutions to everything.